And bonjour and hello everyone. We are back with another episode of the AI Biostats podcast. And with me, as you can see, is Darko Medan. And there's this other guy who's actually on a conference floor. We don't know who he is because he doesn't have a cap. Uh, I don't know who you are, and I don't know how you
I lost
how
my
you.
cap. I lost my.
So
For those of you who thought I had hair, this is my proud pointy head.
very cool, very cool. You're looking very good. Although I don't know your name, but you're looking very good, sir. Thank you very much for connecting with us today, and thank you for giving us the time again, Mr. Unknown Guy and Darko Medan, the very well-known Darko Medan, of course. My friend Darko Medan.
Thank you so much, Saheer, my friend, and as always, really amazing to join you in this podcast. And today we will be. We had a lot of AI topics in the previous podcast, so we actually got some angry people in the audience saying, "Where is the biostats? Where you forgot the biostats, right?" And then we actually have to go to biostats today, and we will be
I'm all in
discussing.
for that, Darko. I'm all in for that, but I'm sorry, my friend. I don't like the word that you're about to mention. And I still don't understand the meaning of that, although I try to do a little bit of back and forth, but I don't know how to pronounce that. So I'll let you do that first, and then I'll try to do a little better. But yeah. And meanwhile, we'll be ensuring that we're not getting distracted by this guy who doesn't have a cap.
Oh,
So
it's I only see that the guy is actually a very good dancer. So very. By the way, going back to the topic of today's AI biostats etc, the word is very funny. Actually, when I say it, most of you will not even know how to pronounce it or what are the accents of the word. And we have here written, so that's really the only way to pronounce it, clinical equipoise. And it is the ethical foundation of doing randomized controlled trials. Where does the word come from? Well, we have equi, which means equal, and pause, which means like we are kind of talking more about uncertainty, this equilibrium of knowledge where we kind of have some information, but we still don't have it. So it's like there is a little bit of uncertainty. There is the equilibrium of uncertainty in our brain. So it sounds very like complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. So and this equilibrium of uncertainty is very important in how we conduct clinical trials, especially in oncology. It's practically needed if a randomized controlled trial is about to proceed. Without the equipoise, it cannot proceed.
okay,
So
okay. So it's basically the balance that we need.
yes, we need a balance, and it's a lot about the ethics. So let's take a certain situation scenario where there is a specific standard of care. Let's say it's just for the sake of the argument. Let's say it's chemo for a specific uh, population in oncology, and we suddenly discover, let's say in phase 2 clinical trial, that there is a better treatment. It could be immuno-oncology, like PD-1, for example, PD-1 inhibitor. And then we want to conduct a clinical trial. So the phase 2 is telling us that this PD-1 inhibitor might be better, hypothetically. But as researchers, we need to be ethical, right? Doctors especially, they need to be ethical. So in theory, if they knew that PD-1 was, if they were sure that PD-1 inhibitor was better than standard of care, it would not be ethical to conduct a randomized controlled trial, because to a number of patients, they would be randomized to the treatment which is worse than that best treatment that they are sure that that is the best treatment. So only in a situation where research community is not 100% sure, because this was a phase 2 trial, we're actually not sure because there are so many other things. Like there is the toxicity profile. It needs to be applied to a larger population. We need to apply randomization to be sure if this result is really true. So a researcher must maintain this ethical principle. And if the equipoise exists, only then If this
Hmm.
uncertainty exists, only then is a randomized control trial ethical to perform.
That was an extensive chart, Darko. Very helpful, of course, for our audience, and we have a few people that have tuned in. I appreciate it. I would love to go towards this other guy and see where exactly Bruno is, and if he has some of the thoughts passed on from Bruno Larvol himself.
Yes,
Because
yes. Hi. So
are you in
yes,
by any chance? Because
it's
Bruno's
me.
phone.
It's me. It's Bruno. I'm here in Berlin at ESMO Breast, and I think equipoise, poise. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's really it's a French sounding certainly, and maybe the etymology might be French. Ask ChatGPT what is the etymology of the word, would you? So equi means equal, poise means balance, probably, right? So it means equal balance, I assume, between the scientific value to prove that your drug works on one hand
I'm
and
sorry to
the
interrupt you, but they could have just said that equal balance.
well, that wouldn't sound very sexy now or very scientific, would it?
It
You know,
doesn't matter.
why make it simple when you can make it complicated? As you know, is a very important French and maybe scientific or academic principle. So Uh, so equipoise. So same weight, maybe poise. You got to check what poise stands for. Having poise means having balance, right? So same weight between balance, essentially between the scientific value of doing the experiment, meaning at the end of the day, unfortunately, using human being as guinea pig. Okay, so that's why it's ethically problematic with the scientific value of proving that this drug is better than that other treatment. So the
Hmm.
balance between the two is the ethical principle, I guess, called equipoise. You got equipoise when the human experimentation
Hmm.
is considered justifiable, all right, based
There's
on the expected scientific learning and the benefit for the humanity of the scientific learning, I should say. To me, that's the way I understand equipoise.
And what you're looking at on the screen right now is the etymology for equipoise. And as it says, it's basically a noun from mid 17th century, originates from the combined form of Latin aquae, which means equal, and Old French poise, which means weight. So it literally means equal weight or equal poise, replacing the older phrase which was equal poise to define the state of balance, equilibrium, and counterbalance. So when there were all of these simple words available, well, I don't want to just go too lengthy on that, but I don't like the word. It's yeah.
I, li- I like strong opinions, and you've got plenty of these here. So that's wonderful. I like it. You know, I like certain words. Sometimes I like certain pedantic words. Recently, the word I really like is canonical. It sounds so
Darko, guess what
mysterious.
that. I guess
Huh?
you already know that, but Darko, make a guess what that means. Canonical, you said?
What?
Canonical, yes.
Oh,
And
that's very difficult to guess, I must
Canonical.
say.
Canonical. It's
Oh,
it's made out of cannons, something like that. Canon.
canon, yes. Yes, I know that there are some some terms in the religion which are
Bruno's
related.
laughing.
all right, so
He's putting a leg. Bruno's really doing that.
no, 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 no. So, okay, so dear audience, forgive us. We're going to go back to equipoise in just an equisecond. However, we need to go, and you'll humor us. We need to understand canon first. Canonical canon. So the
Okay.
canon, it has a religious meaning, and of course,
Okay.
it's a cannon. It's a gun, etc.
Hmm.
Can you ask ChatGPT what the origin of the word canonical? I cannot help myself. We cannot continue until we sort that out,
Yes,
and then we'll
Canonical.
go back to equipoise.
Okay. So
Stick, dear audience, stick with us, please, please. It's good. We promise you, it's worth it.
yes. We just need to understand everything in detail so that we can proceed.
So the word canonical is an adjective. It's originated in the early 15th century, derived from medieval Latin canonicals and late Latin canonicus, meaning according to rule. It stems from the
Cool.
Greek canon, rule, or standard, originally referring to ecclesiastical law, another difficult word, we don't want to get into it. Law.
Ecclesiastical, ecclesiastical. It
I'll
means
say
church
it's
related law. Yeah.
okay. Okay. Law and authorized biblical text. It
Okay.
denotes something authorized, standard,
I
accepted,
think it means
or
authorized. I think it just means
principle.
authorized. So why not say authorized? I just think canonical sounds so cool. I like to say that. Anyway,
I agree.
back.
I agree
You
with that.
agree. Now you agree. It's just equipoise you don't like, but canonical you like. So
Yeah, that might build on with time, with
okay.
time.
So why did I bring up equipoise recently? Because with Polymarket, people are saying, well, we're going to start betting on clinical trials.
Okay.
All right. Well, first, I'm all for that. Now, I'm sure there are some legal rules in the US where you're not supposed to use Polymarket. Now, the people on Twitter got upset. Doctors got upset,
Okay.
and I've been wondering why. So they got upset. They really didn't like the idea that people would bet on clinical trial. They got, frankly, a little defensive. As much as I love doctors, I'm married to one of them. That they got a little defensive there. One of the
Okay.
arguments is that it's gonna mess up with equipoise. That's where I heard the term recently. It was gonna mess
Oh,
up with equipoise.
that's
Well,
an interesting topic, and we have plenty of people tuned in, by the way. So I'm
okay,
sure
well,
they
well,
would.
everybody's interested in equipoise
Yeah.
and canonical. So why? Well, I think for the bad reason. So they would say, well, it's gonna break equipoise, it's gonna mess up with equipoise. How? Because if I'm a patient
Hmm.
and 90% of people say this trial is going to, of course, succeed. Everybody knows that. Is going to make obvious to me that equipoise is not respected. At least you get 90% of people who are ready to bet money that half of the people in this clinical trial are unfairly, unethically experimented on to generate good data. Because why would anybody bet 90% sure that this trial is going to work? Or even worse, by the way, 95%, because 95% is a p-value that we expect from a clinical trial, right? So let's say 95% of people who bet that this trial is going to work. It
So,
means,
is that not a good thing, Darko? I'm deliberately going towards you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it, it it can be a bad thing and a good thing from different angles. If you think about what Bruno just said, if 95% of the people are willing to bet that a certain drug is going to be superior than a standard of care, and for that randomized control trial, that's a pretty high confidence level, right? So that means that people who were randomized to standard of care, like majority of the community, actually thinks that they are receiving the worst treatment. And then you get into a problem. The principle of equipoise or equipoise, like saying the French accent, equipoise, is that you should not be you can conduct a randomized control trial only
Uh,
if you are not very sure if the treatment in each arm is better than the other, like you are comparing them. So the goal of the randomization is that both groups, both the treatment intervention arm and the control arm, receive treatments which are good for them, especially in
hmm.
oncology. But if you are sure, if the community is sure 95% that the intervention is better, then the people
Hmm.
in the control arm will say, well, but of course, it's usually blinded, but it's still the same principle. I mean, let's use a better, more sensitive term, masked, so that people don't know what their treatments are, what treatment they're receiving. Anyway,
Hmm.
everyone will wonder. The group from the control arm now knows, and I mean, they don't know for sure, but with high level of confidence that the intervention is much better. So is it now ethical to give to the control group, the treatment which is with high confidence, which is probably going to be worse? Of course, there's no certainty there. That's why we use the randomized control trial, but it still can be an interesting angle to assess.
Thank you for that, Darko. Bruno, you probably would agree to that, or do you have a disagreement? Do you want to make it controversial with
Um,
that
I
difficult one?
um, so in general, I just feel sad and maybe a little bit paranoid at the same time. Sad because I feel patients are exposed to um, to control arm, placebo, but not much in cancer is really chemo. Actually, often they're exposed to chemo in a way that I've got a feeling is not justifiable. I feel that equipoise is not followed. I guess that's what I don't like, and I feel that we is not followed because because we want a level of proof that the drug is working. Okay,
Mm,
we're evidence-based medicine is what we're okay. But how do you get evidence? By experimental on humans. That's really the only way. So evidence-based medicine is
mm,
built on human being assigned to control groups. And I'm starting to feel that we are pushing the burden of evidence at a level
mm,
where the ethical justification, if patient knew, they would not agree to. But they don't know. They're not biostatisticians. They have such a respect to doctors. They will never say, oh, researcher so-and-so, professor so-and-so, the equipoise is not right. I disagree with the
mm,
equipoise of that trial. Right? So they are so respectful of the medical profession that I'm
mm,
afraid they're taking advantage of for a biostatistical, sorry, Darko, you're a biostatistical person, but for a biostatistical burden of proof that frankly is not required, it's not necessary. It wouldn't be for me. I would not want to
mm,
be in a trial like this, and I would prefer to receive the drug without that level of proof even.
mm,
Now, of course, many people have very strong opinion on both sides. And so then I thought, and I'm kind of moving back and forth. Then I thought, okay, I don't know how good is that new drug, fine, but I can predict increasingly how well the control group is going to do. All
mm,
right. So why not use synthetic or historical or real world data enhanced or control arm? All right. So
okay.
I would argue that the reluctance
Mm,
of the community, driven by the FDA, by the way, right? Because they're the ones who are conservative in some ways, to
mm,
accept some kind of synthetic enhancement of control arm is costing a lot of lives and suffering, and people being exposed to chemo without the need for that.
okay.
And that would be my argument. So to
We
change
started.
that is very hard though. But
Hmm. I
I'm passionate about it. I don't know why. I'm really passionate about this topic.
good point. I tend to slightly okay. We started the conversation mentioning Polymarket a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I understand why you did that, but isn't that slightly? I mean, can you relate if you think about maybe the stock market? Isn't that a little similar in nature? If you're, it's also betting on a 12 in a way.
Well, right, but well, I understand. But the control arm is people who bet on the wrong side of that stock market and lose money, right? For example, they shorted the stock, and that happened to me. I lost a lot of money on the stock market, and I made some money too. But right, so in a way, you're in the control arm that way. But
Mm,
by the way, Polymarket is not a perfect similarity because the people betting there are usually not physicians. So what do they know, right? They're gamblers, and maybe they deserve to lose their money if they're wrong. So maybe Polymarket is not, shouldn't, frankly, it shouldn't be relevant, in my opinion, to
mm.
equipoise. What should be
You-
relevant is change in accepted synthetic control arm or partially
Without,
enhanced expanded control arm in
we,
order to lower the reliance on
I don't
a
I
control
don't
arm.
want to interrupt you, Bruno, but as soon as you said we criticized a little bit Polymarket, we lost about 17 people instantly. Yeah,
You're kidding
I
me.
I'm
Really?
just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying
You're
what
just saying that to
no,
trigger me. Really?
no, no.
All
I'm
right.
saying
All
on
right.
the screen.
Or maybe, wait. So, what do you want you to dance again to get them back?
That will get
Well,
them back 100%.
we gotta get them back. We gotta get them back. Okay. Well, my point, Darko, if so, maybe Larvol and our AI, with your help, can prove that it's time really to take seriously synthetic control arm, which are not respected today. And maybe it's really time, and they
Hmm.
should not be ignored. And we should, at the minimum, expand or enrich the number of people in a control arm by adding synthetic data. So, for example, instead of half and half, interventional versus control, you have 75% in the intervention, 25% in the control, and then you add 25% of that as synthetic data, whether it's from real world data or historical data or other synthetic AI generated expansion.
Hmm.
And maybe we can play a role in proving that this is the ethical, and maybe we can get patient advocates to help make the case to the FDA.
I completely agree. I couldn't be happier than to actually agree with you on the fact that we probably need to be, in the. I think that there are some. We are seeing some movements towards the direction, towards having more flexibility towards synthetic control arms, and especially, I think what is super important is the use of real world evidence that we have today. So we just need to be very creative in how to use all that data. So much data is created. As you said, we have so much data on the control arm that we can actually predict what's going to happen with quite a good accuracy with them, which kind of limits the need to have controls and randomized control trials for every situation. I'm not against randomized control trials as long as they are ethical and feasible. But what if they're not ethical and feasible? We need a solution for that. We need a creative solution to that. And actually, I think one of the best solutions would probably be exactly as you said. We just need better synthetic control arms, and we need a better use of real world evidence to limit the breaking of equipoise and to be more ethical.
And for that, I know we had of time and we expanded our time here. But for me, it's the same question of, by the way, continuing clinical trial that clearly is going to result in statistical significance. I feel that we continue trial to get this beautiful KM curve that separate, we say, putting a track in between. But I would argue in many cases it's unethical. We know midpoint, absolutely certain. I mean, reasonable certainty that it's going to meet its statistical endpoint in 1 year. And for that 1 year, we put all these patients on
Hmm.
on an inferior treatment. I think that's not ethical.
Agree. Agree.
So
What if
let's change that.
I
I
agree?
all in for that, Darko. I'll hand it to you to end the episode. We are a little over time, but I really appreciate both of you for your time. Thank you very much, Bruno Larvol, for joining us from ESMO BC. Thank you, Darko Medan, for joining us again. Over to you for the closing statement, and then we can go and
Closing
dance.
statement while Bruno is performing a beautiful dance in the background, and I see all the audience is coming back. I see everybody's back, so thank you.
We have good 40 people tuned in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Very
as a
good.
closing, I would like to say we started with equipoise, a weird term that nobody knows what it is, but we ended with a very, very smart suggestion: be more ethical in clinical trials and how to potentially even save many, many lives and give better treatments to those patients, which are often in the control
I
arm
am
of randomized control trials.
Thank you for that closing statement. Bruno Judith, who's also on the floor as part of our team participation, is asking, why exactly are you dancing?
Oh, we have Judith. Oh.
I
Judith
lost, I
also
lost
joined.
the video. I lost the video.
Yeah, me too. Lost the video. Okay, well, should we close now? Executive
Maybe.
producer.
I pressed the wrong button here.
Oh, hello, Judith. Hello, Judith. Great to see
He was
you.
asking, why are you
I guess
dancing?
we
We cannot hear you anymore, guys.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
but
All
you
right,
are
see you
showing
guys.
a great time.
Thank you very much, everybody who tuned in. We'll see you next week, same time. Thank you, Darko. Appreciate it. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Thank you, Saheer.